It's 23 degrees on this Monday afternoon, May 11th. Spencer Creek, Albion Park. Ross with you to test the creek and take a little forest walk as well. We said 23 in the air. The creek we have 14, and we know that's fine, perfectly good. And the pH comes in 7.0, right on the money. Our turbidity level, as we look in the creek, clear to the bottom, is 0. And we have a barrier, unfortunately, that's made its way down here. A little bit of rain is supposed to roll in here overnight tonight, and we could certainly use it, although this is a pretty good base flow, considering how dry it's been in April and so far in May as well. So we'll catch up with you shortly up on the trail. We spent a fair amount of time this year talking about invasive plant species. Invasive, non-native, meaning they're not from around here. They were brought in from some other part of the world. And in most cases, they don't have any enemies here. Nothing's learned how to use them. So there's no real way to keep them under control naturally. Good example here, we talk about purple policeman helmet. These are the popping plants that we looked at last fall. They're really growing now. And if we hadn't had COVID-19, we would have been coming in here and doing this, pulling them up by the roots. They come out really easily. There's that purple stem. And we pile them on the trail, like so, and just let them die right there. So obviously we weren't able to do that this spring, but we'll get back here next year doing that, I'm sure. So that's probably the number one in the park. I think it probably came in with contaminated trail mulch, and that's how it got established. Fortunately, it can't penetrate that far into the forest if there's lots of shade. Here's another invasive species here. This is called Himalayan blackberry, and it's got these really big, huge, kind of serrated leaves. And there's a lot of thorns, dense thorns on the stems here. These things can get really, really big if they're in full sun. This whole site here was nothing but a big prickle bush of Himalayan blackberry. And around 2008, the city came in, cleared out the blackberry with a machine, and students from SRC planted a mix of salmonberry, hazelnut, alder, willow, cedar, and look how big it's gotten. That's all trees that were planted in here. So that's kept the blackberry from really coming back in a big way. It's come back a little bit, but it has trouble getting into places where there's lots of shade. Now you can tell the blackberry from salmonberry. Salmonberry's the good guy. It's got natural food, birds, deer, whatever. The leaves tend to be smaller, and the thorns are a lot more widely spaced. Since it's a native plant, it's kind of invasive itself, so it can be used to outcompete blackberry. That's what we like to use it for. This is about as tall as it'll ever get, the salmonberry. There is a native kind of blackberry that grows here in the park too. And it's called trailing blackberry, and you can find some right over here. And it just stays on the ground. It doesn't really go anywhere. There's a better example over there. It is native. It doesn't go crazy. Trails along the ground. There's a bit more. So it's one of the good guys as well. So I brought you all over here just to give you a sense of what Himalayan blackberry can do when it's in an open site and there's nothing to control. Just take a look at that. That's almost impenetrable, and it just goes on and on and on. It would take a machine to get rid of all that out of there. But if we were to do that, we would probably remove it with a machine and come back in and plant some stuff that'll outcompete it. Just like I showed you before with salmonberry, alder, cottonwood, things that are going to grow fast, shade the area, and turn this in time into that. Of course, not all non-native plants are really invasive. This laurel plant here has been sitting in the same spot for almost 10 years. It is growing. We should probably kind of cut it back and get rid of it. But it's not spreading. It's what we call non-native, but not really invasive. It doesn't go crazy and take over the whole forest like our old friend purple policeman helmet, and to some extent blackberry does as well. So with the same thing, you could bring something like a ponderosa pine down from the interior. It'll grow here, but it won't reproduce. It won't spread. So that's what we mean by non-native, non-invasive. So you're planting stuff in your yard, the things to really be careful of, things like ivy, things like that just go nuts, and once they're out of the Pandora's box, so to speak, it's really tough to control them. The last native plant for today is our thimbleberry, and you can tell the difference between it and the blackberry. The leaves look different. There's more lobes on them, and they're very absorbent, almost like toilet paper. When the panic buying was going on, this stuff almost came in handy. It does produce berries, but not till July. There's some trailing blackberry down in there mixed with it. So a little thimbleberry. And branch just fell down over here. Alright guys, that will do it for today. And I will see you next time in Albion Park.